This year during the 2024 growing season, I did an experiment with trying to grow the melon plants inside cages. And so I want to take some time right now to share some thoughts and ideas on how that process has panned out so far during this growing season. Right now we are in August. Some of the melons have already been produced by the plants, and it's been a pretty good amount of time for me to be able to see some of the results of how these cages are working out. So I wanted to quickly share some notes and observations about this melon caging. One thing that I've noticed is that definitely for like the melons that are being produced on the inside of the cage, those are untouched, right? And those are developing pretty well, whereas the vines that I've missed when they grow out of the cage and sprawl across the ground outside, those are when the melons will get chunks and stuff bitten out of them by various herbivores. So this tells me that these cages work, right, as long as you're continuing to train all of the melon vines up the cages rather than letting them sprawl out across the ground, right? My issue was that I just ran out of time and these plants got way ahead of me. So that was what happened there. But I've also noticed a really good observation here is that the wild birds will actually perch on this cage, and they will drop their droppings down onto the plants, and the rain, or when you water the plants, will actually help to wash all that down into the soil profile. So it helps give these melon plants an extra boost of nitrogen and phosphorus. So it's actually, I didn't even think about this, but I'm realizing now this is like a really cool method for like free fertilizer. Basically have the birds do all the work for you, right? So that's a really effective, low-cost method to get extra fertilizer, especially for these melon plants, which can have a relatively high demand for certain nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. So unfortunately, in some of these other cages, a lot of these melon plants are succumbing to bacterial wilt, right? And so this is a disease that is spread by cucumber beetles, and the melon plants get infected, and within a week or a couple of weeks, the plants continually wilt and they die. But we can see, we've got some small fruit production in here. Of course, the vines are dying back prematurely, and I never got to fertilizing them much with any type of compost. But even some of these smaller melons are actually beginning to turn ripe, and usually these melons will be produced in larger sizes, but I'm wondering if these plants actually got root bound or pot bound, because I transplanted them out, but I transplanted them out a little later, unfortunately, than I intended to, and I'm wondering if that kind of stunted the growth of the melons. I'm not totally sure. But then we also had a really serious drought in the whole month of July, and I didn't really water them that much. But yeah, and we can see here, like the melons on the outside of the cage are getting chewed up. The ones inside the cage are not getting chewed up. Overall, the melon cages seem to hold a lot of promise. Unfortunately, we did have some droughty conditions this year, and I was not able to keep up with the watering as I should have. And while melon plants do tend to originate from more arid, drier climates, these melon plants can receive all the fertility that they want, but without enough water, they're just not going to be that productive. And even though melon plants in and of themselves, as they're growing, they are usually one of the last crops in the garden to show signs of drought stress, some of the drastic symptoms like wilt and things of that nature. Even though the melon plants may appear to be drought resistant and the plants themselves do pretty well during drier times, unfortunately it will reduce the yield of melons, right? Both in number and in size as well. So making sure that these melon plants receive enough water is paramount if you want to get a good harvest. And so in future growing seasons, this is definitely a lesson that I can carry with me. So thank you so much for checking out this video. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.